Good morning, young kings. Get up, get out of bed. It's time for your morning motivation. You know, ran just over 7 miles today, receiving my download from the Most High. Got a morning motivation to share with you. But I must give you this warning. I don't know how exactly this is gonna unpack today. The thoughts were just kind of rushing through the head, and it may be long. So I know somebody's out there thinking that these videos are supposed to be shorter, but I tell you, when I'm running, the downloads just keep coming. I know your attention span is like $9.99, and I'm trying to make a $10 withdrawal and coming up with insufficient funds, but listen as long as you can. Get what you can. Chew the meat, spit out the bone if it's useful or not. But after that long introduction, and that was a minute itself, so you know this is going to be long. So today's morning motivation is that night is part of your day too. Some of you don't get that, so some of you just chew on that a little bit. But the night is a part of the day. Adversity is not your adversary. So you got to understand that you're going to go through stuff in life. You're going to have hard times. There's going to be times where you feel alone. It's going to be times where it's tough. There's going to be times where you feel like it ain't worth it to accomplish your goal, to do your dream, but you got to stay with it, because everybody hears the saying, tough times don't last, but tough people do. Pain may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. All those type of things, it sounds good, but then the reality of it is you got to live it. You got to be out there to grind, and when it gets difficult. And if you know my morning motivations, I kind of base it off things that I've been through in life, because there's a lot that I had to endure. So I'm a graduate of the Aversary University. There's some classes that I had to take a few times in this Aversary University. Do it on repeat. Been in that fiery furnace. I know those who have biblical knowledge know about the time in the fiery furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and myself, a bad Negro, Abednego, being in there where you feel like you're not going to make it, but you got the Most High, and they said it was a fourth man in there. The Most High was in their community, making sure that what was around me wasn't consuming me. It wasn't going to harm me, but it was there to expose me to it and let me know that, hey, things may be dark around you. It may be hot in you. Chaos may go on around you, but you got to be with the peace within, knowing that God got you. And if you're listening to this, you receive favor from the Most High this morning. They say grace stands for God's riches at Christ's expense. Something that we didn't deserve, we didn't earn. He just blessed us with it each morning with oxygen in our lungs. So I got a few stories. When I was running today, Afghanistan was on my mind, about some of the experiences that I had over there. Went to Afghanistan as a company commander. I believe it was 08, 09. My memories have been so long, my memory's getting short too. My memory sometimes can be short in your attention span. But anyway, so 08, 09, I took a unit over there, Combat Sustainment Support Battalion, and I had a great group of guys and girls, soldiers, just an awesome time. But it was a lot of chaos going on where we deployed to, and it was going on all around us. We was in Kandahar. In Kandahar, Afghanistan, it was a place that, you can't walk more than 2 or 3 feet where a rocket has not attacked yet. So every 2 or 3 steps that you have taken at some point in time over the course of decades and, many decades, centuries of war, some type of ordnance had exploded there. So at any given time, a rocket attack. And I remember that what our deployment was based off, a lot of rocket attacks. We couldn't even sleep at night because there were so many different attacks that came through. So I got 2 stories about that. Afghanistan, I know that sun is bright. It's showing you this morning that it's going to be a great day. But in Afghanistan, I was a part of the gospel group the gospel choir, and that was some of the purest worship that I experienced, in my life. And I think it was so pure because it was like, and it had its faults, but it removed a lot of the business aspect about worshiping. We were in a combat zone. We were getting rocket attacks everywhere, but we was just pure. It wasn't no, hey, we're going to raise this collection for a building fund. Hey, we got this parking lot fund. We're going to need $1 million to do this, or we want to expand the building. We didn't have a lot of those distractions, and I'm not saying anything's against those distractions, but the people who were there just genuinely wanted to worship and wanted to be there. So I remember one Sunday, we was worshiping, and on the evening service, a Sunday evening service. I'm gonna sit down here in the shade, get out of the sun. But one Sunday, we was worshiping in the evening service, and I remember clearly. It was Sergeant First Class Jones. This guy, he was a character from the South. I'm not supposed to be name dropping, but I'm gonna drop it anyway. I keep saying that. But he was preaching, and he had a word, And think about this guy was that he was an amazing orator. I mean, he know how to get in the Word of God, and he had this Southern accent, and he used to hem and haw, and it was just like, man, he was moving. But sometimes outside of service, he didn't really, have like, he wasn't perfect. I guess the same can be said about me. So a lot of people weren't able to receive from him because some of the things they perceived. And I didn't work. I wasn't in this unit, so I don't know the details of everything. But I just know that some people were unable to receive from him. But he was preaching, and he had an anointed word, and it was just going off. And then the end came, and he gave the closing benediction and altar call, and it was like one or two people came up, and I was one of the prayer intercessors, and I was up in front about to receive people down for prayer, and only one or two people came up, and he was just like, he was passionate, and he was just going in. He said, God has been keeping us, and he's still keeping us. God has kept us, and he's still keeping us. Come on, give God some glory. Give God some glory. You've been going through it. It may be dark, it may be night, but God is keeping us. And nobody was responding to the call. So minutes after he was going into this, the building shook, like boom. I know it kind of shocked you. It shocked us too. And a rocket had landed probably within a football field of that church, and the whole building just shook. And the process when a rocket attack comes in is that you're supposed to get prostrate. You're supposed to be laying down flat. So I remember, he was just encouraging us to come down, and the building shook, and all of a sudden we got down. And he says, I bet you give God glory now. God's going to get his praise. And it was unfortunate, that somebody did demise, during that incident. It was a contractor. But I remember vividly, like, man, we were just sitting here under God's grace and his presence, and we were refusing to really acknowledge how good he has been to us because of a lot of things we were missing back home, or the things we were going through in the unit, or distractions that may happen. But I remember that, like, living that, like, wow, God is good. Like, even when we're not good to him, he's good to us. And I remember another incident. One of our chaplains was the chaplain at row 3, and we used to do a prayer group there. And I remember going down to a prayer service there, and he was like, hey, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to lead this meeting. I might have to step out. We got a lot of inbound soldiers that are injured. This is a mass casualty. They just been hit by IEDs, so they're flying them in. And Kandahar was like a row 3 hospital for those. It was like for severe trauma and things of that nature. And it was also the last stage that all bodies in Afghanistan, for those soldiers who demised. I know we just came past Memorial Day. For all those who died in combat, they flew into Kandahar before they flew back to Dover's Air Force Base, back to stateside. So it was the last stopping point in Afghanistan as well. So these planes, we're going through our prayer meeting, and people are bringing their prayers before God and struggles they're having with the unit and stuff like that. And I remember the alarm went off for him to leave. Like, the plane was just landing and it was inbound, and he left. And he said, I'm going to have to step out. And he stepped out, and he went in to administer, prayer for those who were wounded and stuff of that nature, and console them. And for some, he was given their last opportunity for the declaration of faith. And I remember vividly, he went in, he left for a minute, and then he came back. He says, I tell you what, if y'all really want to pray, there's a lot of soldiers in here that can use prayer right now. I mean, and he explained to us it may be explicit and stuff of that nature, and he gave us the option to choose if we wanted to go or not. And I went, and I remember walking through that door, and the first thing I see is a soldier um, that had a tourniquet on his leg, to cut off the blood supply, and his leg was missing. His arm was badly wounded, and I was just thinking, like, I was thinking it was going to be a buildup. Like I was going to get in there, I was going to be able to, wash my hands and, prepare and see, for what I was about to see. But as soon as we crossed that door threshold, um, we seen it, and it sketched in my mind. And I remember thinking, like, the problems I had was really insignificant at that point. Why do I say this? Because a lot of people go through a lot of times, and what they do in the darkness, sometimes it gets more destructive than what they do in the light. They looked at the day as being beneficial, and they look at the night as being just something that needs to go away. But in reality is that a lot of your life experiences, the real growth is going to happen in the dark. As I mentioned, I ran 7 miles today. Ran around the neighborhood, and I did 1 lap at the track. And there's individuals at the track when I ran that 1 lap. To them, they had been going around the track a long time and been doing their laps, getting their exercise. And here it is, me running up there. I just do 1 lap, and then I kind of start walking. I'm tired, and I know in their mind they're like, "Man, why are you so tired after 1 lap?" Because to them, that's all they seen was that 1 lap. A lot of people won't see the miles that you ran before then, and they won't appreciate the journey that you have been through in life. And you got to understand that a part of that journey is meant to be traveled alone, and that nighttime is a part of your day. Like, adversity is not your adversary. It's not there to destroy you. It's there actually to build you. So when it goes through a phase, like, there's construction and there's destruction. When it comes to destruction, it's people tearing you down and building you up, and it's painful to endure that. But sometimes you got to have discernment to know the difference when it's construction, because when it's construction, sometimes you still got to tear down some walls and some barriers, but the end state is for a better end product. So you got to be aware between the two. Is it there to tear you down, or is it there to build you up? And I tell you, if you're experiencing it, it all depends on your perspective. The perspective you choose to take will determine how you get out of that. I mean that no one can destroy you except you. You got to give somebody permission. You got to give somebody control of your emotions. You got to give somebody permission to allow external events to impact you, and to be where it may destroy you. And I know there's thoughts out there that may thinking, well, I never asked to be here, or I didn't ask for this situation to be thrusted upon me. And that's why I love the Most High, because He gives us what we need and not necessarily what we ask for. So a lot of times we go on through life and we experience things that's outside of the scope of what we would deem part of our learning curriculum. But He'll thrust us into a situation, and it forces us to grow, and it forces us to get to a point where we have nobody but to depend on but Him. And I remember God had placed me in a place of dependence, meaning that when I need people the most, it's when they're most likely to fail me. And I'm sure that's the same case with you. And what God is teaching me is like, don't depend on people. People are fickle. You don't want to go to a God who changes not. So it's helped me to not depend on people, and to really step out there on faith. And when you step out there on faith, I heard it said that faith is like coming to the end of a plank or a cliff, and it's just nothing but blackness out there. It's nothing but darkness. And then you got an option, and you just got to jump. And when you jump, you got to realize one or two things are going to happen. Um, when you jump out in the mist and you uncertainty, there's darkness and it's night, you got to realize that only one or two things are going to happen. And this is your faith, that either God is going to catch you or he's going to teach you how to fly. You just got to be able to release and just go out there and take that leap. And even though you don't know what may be next, you still got to go through and go through that faith. And I think that's why they call it faith, because if you known that the end state was going to be positive, then you may go. But if it's that uncertainty that, well, I don't know, because some people know that it's hard, but it's going to get better, and they still quit in the process. So, but bottom line is, to conclude today, my rambling, night is a part of your day, meaning that don't run from the night. And I'll conclude on this. It's like I was just mentoring a young man over the weekend, and he was talking about his dreams and his goals and stuff of that nature. And I told him, I says, look, you got to establish your goals, and because that's your roadmap for life. If you don't have a dream or you don't have a goal, then what you're going to end up doing is working for somebody else's dream and working for somebody else's goal. You want to be in control of your destiny and get to a point where he was undecided, and he was like, I don't want to do this because of this, I don't want to do this because of that. And anybody can decide, and I told him anybody can decide what they don't want to do. The key to life is deciding what you want to do. And I used to tell my kids, and I told him, I says, never run from anything, you run to something. So when you run from something, you're running away, and you're trying to escape, and you're looking for an easy road, or you're thinking that, hey, this ain't worth it. But when you run to something, you're running towards a goal, you're running towards an established item or incident that you may desire to be a part of your life. So you're able to have more control of it. So I encourage you all today to get up and do a little extra research down in your soul to figure out what that you want to do. And if you're in that nighttime period, realize that that's part of the process, that night is a part of the day, and that adversity is not your adversary. Make it a great day.